Hey Fridge fans, Tech here. I'm at ConnectiCon in Hartford, Connecticut. There are some spectacular guests here, and I had the pleasure of talking with several of them. Hey folks, this morning I have a very special guest. I'm standing with voice actor Richard Horvitz, better known as the voice of Invader Zim. Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you. Did you hear the applause? I would like to think they were for me, but they weren't.
Perfectly timed.
Yes.
So, my best friend showed me Zim for the first time in college, which was about 10 years ago. And it was just one of those moments where it was like the day I discovered Ren and Stimpy,
Yes.
where it was just one of those shows that was completely off the wall and different from everything I'd ever seen before. And it's endured. I mean, it's only a 28 episode series, and it's endured. I mean, how does it feel to be part of something that with such a cult following?
You know, it's an honor because when we were working on it, people often ask us if we knew we were doing something special. And, you know, at the time, you don't really think about the audience per se when you're doing it because we're just laughing and we're doing things that make us laugh. So we were having fun doing it, and next thing we know, it just like took off. I mean, Jonan had a huge following in his comic book world, and that definitely gave us a huge boost. But yeah, it's flattering, and it's I'm honored that people still love the show.
Wonderful. And now you're also part of another fantastically followed show from my youth, Power Rangers.
Yes.
And that was another moment where it was like when I talked to Maurice Marsh yesterday, and when I realized he was Egon from my childhood.
Yes.
When I found out that
Ghostbusters, right?
when
Yeah.
you were Alpha 5, and I heard it, it clicks in your mind.
It's amazing because you always hope that your characters are different enough that people don't realize that you're doing all those. It's great for a voiceover actor. And so I would say the most common comment that I get, other than, hey, you were my childhood, in which I always say, you know, your parents owe me babysitting fees, is you were Alpha 5 too? And it's like, yeah. And it's, yeah, Zordon, the Power Rangers are in trouble. And they go, oh my gosh, you are. I'm like, yeah. And that's always flattering because they didn't know that Zim and Alpha were the same character, you know, same person rather.
I went back and listened to the episode of Talking Tunes you were on with Rob Paulson,
Yes.
and I got to ask you this. During the conversation, you mentioned that you had a story about Marlon Brando, and you never got to tell it, so I'm just super curious what your story is.
So when I was a teenager, my first job was working at a movie theater. It's like, thank you for calling Men's Studio Theater, located at 12136 Ventura Boulevard, 1/2 block west of Lower Canyon in Studio City. So I had worked my way up from, you know, taking tickets in the little booth out front to working concessions. So the movie had started, and it was about 10 minutes into the movie, and I'm working the concession stand. I'm selling popcorn. And this Mercedes 450 SEL, I think it was, pulls up right into the loading zone, and out steps this guy, hair greased, T-shirt a little dirty. He walks in, he looks up, and he goes, "Give me a tub of corn." I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, it's Marlon Brando. And I say to him, would you like butter flavoring on that? And he says, yeah, slather some of that butter on it. So I put on the butter, right? So he goes to pay me, takes out a $10 bill, and he goes to pay me. And I say, oh, no, it's on us. Please accept it as our compliments. And he looks at me and he says, the person who mows your lawn or cleans your house is as important as anybody else. Take the money. And he threw the money at me, and he took his corn, he got in his car, and he drove away. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, it was just like in a scene from The Wild Bunch.
Oh my
God. Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't wind up with a horse head in your bed the next morning.
Exactly. No, but yeah, it's an honorable guy, you know, he's right. Why should I get special favors? Like, you are Marlon Brando, and this is a movie theater, so. But.
Oh, awesome. Now, you also teach voice acting.
I do.
As well as blow your voice out, creating amazing characters. How long after getting into acting did you get into teaching?
Well, I started acting as a child. I was a child actor. I did a lot of TV and film from the 70s through the 80s, and I kind of changed the focus of my career to voiceover in around 1989. Around 1994 or so, or 5, a friend of mine was supposed to teach a class at Cal State Northridge in voiceover, and he wasn't able to teach it, so he asked me if I'd like to. So I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. And it turned out to be something I really enjoyed doing. I enjoyed helping people, you know, create characters and learn how to break down their stories, which is where I start. The philosophy of my technique is all about playing pretend. We tend to forget that as we're growing up. We think that our job is to book the jobs, or our job is to get the jobs. And what happens is the play pretend part of our creative life disappears. I mean, when you were a kid and you would play Superman, you wouldn't go, "Freeze, Lex Luthor, I'm Superman," and then say to the person you were playing with, "Let me ask you, did you believe that? Or should I have gone, freeze, Lex Luthor, freeze, Lex Luthor, freeze, Lex Luthor?" And so what I teach people is your job is not to book the job. Your job, and our job only in this world as actors and voiceover, is to play pretend and play pretend fully. So I help people remember what it's like to think as a child again.
Wonderful. I remember from the panel yesterday, the voice actor panel, you said that you just like to play.
Just play. It's all about playing. Even in serious situations, it's about playing. You know, people say, "Well, it wouldn't be fun to play if you're dying." I said, "No, it would. People love to do dying scenes. You know, you just have to find what you enjoy about that. It's fun." Yeah.
Fantastic. Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Nice to meet you.
Why was